Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Australia. Today I'm going to be bringing a video about our little bit extra. So our embellishments, our ribbons, our trims, our rhinestones, all of those type of things. More or less anything that's not paper. Today I'm going to show you a card that I've made using my favourite, which happens to be the metallic thread and the rhinestones, which I've coloured with one of the new Stampin' blends. Well, as you can see today I'm going to use my Stamparatus, and this is the first time I've used it, showing it on one of my videos. I've already set up my floral complement from the Woodward set onto one of my clear plates, and you'll see that I'm using the Stamparatus to shuffle it along or hop it along, however you'd like to describe it. Just inking up my stamp, and it gives a perfect image every time. And if it doesn't, you can always restamp, put some more ink on it and stamp it again. The plates are interchangeable, and you can use them multiple times, which is great. Now, what I'm showing you here on this card is I've cut a template and a circle because I actually use this card for one of my swaps. So I've made over 50 of these circles. I'm just going to show you 2 here for the purpose of the video. I initially stamped one using the Stamparatus so that I could position it. I then took it away and cut it on my big shot with my stitched framelits. I then actually cut a lot of them on the big shot so that I could push them really close together to get the most out of my piece of cardstock. And there they are there. They all look great, don't they? Everything looks great on mass. So to continue with the front of my card, this is just a little piece of crumb cake, and I'm actually stamping it. I am using Sahara sand. I'm not using the coordinating colour ink, mainly because it makes it a little bit more subtle, which was what I was after. I do like to dauber my edges. It gives everything a bit of a rustic look. I'll pop my link for my blog below. You'll be able to see this card in comparison to a card where I haven't actually done this or added the embellishments, just so that you can see the variety it gives. There you go. Can you see that edge around there? And it comes up nicely on that piece of Very Vanilla cardstock. I've used thick Very Vanilla to make my card base, and I just cut my A4 pieces straight in half. Always using my bone folder to crease them because it gives such a nice crease. Just gather my bits together. Now see this little piece here? I'm going to pop it into the big shot. You can put a whole piece into your embossing folder. This is the cable knit textured embossing folder. But when I was doing my cutting, I had some pieces left over. So these pieces fit perfectly along that cable piece. So that's what I thought, oh, I'll use that. That looks good. Now these fit snugly into the big shot. So it's really important that you line them up perfectly, otherwise you'll fracture the plastic. I always put mine in through with the folded edge first, just to make sure that it goes in nicely and it doesn't end up bending. Ask me how I know about that. Okay. Washi tape gets a bit sticky when you push it through the big shot. Again, out comes the dauber, around the edges, down the ends, and you'll notice I also put a little bit over the top of the cable knit, just to give it a little bit of colour, just tiz it up a bit. Everyone's got their favourite adhesive. I like all the adhesives. It just depends on the application as to what I'm using it for. I should have got my pokey tool out, or whatever they like to call it, because that makes pulling that piece of paper off so much easier. Just snip it off because it's only a centimetre. Makes it really quite easy to see, and you'll notice how good this comes together. And don't forget to hold your tongue straight in the right spot and concentrate. I'm bringing in one of our circle punches now. I could use the circle framelits, but the punch just gives a tiny little rim. This is our 2-inch punch, and I'm just cutting 2 so that I've got both of them for the 2 pieces that I stamped earlier. Quite frequently I'll pop these with some dimensionals. However, today I'm just going to use my fast fuse and stick my sentiment onto the gold foil, just so it gives that nice rim around it, and then I'll actually pop the dimensionals underneath. Now there's lots of tips that you'll find for using the linen thread, it's not linen thread, it's the metallic threads. I've popped some thread keeper around mine that I use on my sewing machine, embroidery threads. What I do with it is I wrap it around my fingers and I hold it firmly where the two ends that I've cut, and I pop a little piece of fast fuse or tape of some description onto the back, and I stick it straight onto that. Once I've stuck it down, I can manipulate it and I can hold it in place with my dimensionals, which is what you can see me doing here. I do get a little bit thingy about how it looks, so I like to tweak it and push it around a bit. Then it's a good time to let's stick everything together. And even though I'm doing a voiceover, I can still feel myself holding my breath just so that I can get that in the right spot so that it's square. And I'm even doing it again. Okay. Okay, I'm not popping the sentiment on because I'm actually going to put that card back in the Stamparatus. But first let's deal with the envelope. The Stamparatus is great for multiple step stamping. It's also great for lots of stamping. So if I was doing 10, 15 envelopes, this would be excellent. I could stamp them all in exactly the same spot every single time. I was going to pop that on the bottom of the envelope, but let's change our mind. Okay, so now the front and my back of my envelope match. And I do like to do envelopes and insides of my cards. I've just cleaned the Stamparatus with a chamois. You can actually put a piece of our grid paper in there and it will work the same way, and it stops the ink transferring over to your whatever the new pieces that you're putting in. You'll notice that I've pushed my card base up a little bit, and that is, we've got 1 centimetre lines on our Stamparatus in Australia, and that just gives me a guide, and it means that I can actually have my whole stamp going off the edge just a smidge, which is what I like. Let's put the front on now and bring it all in together. Okay, we'll add some rhinestones. The rhinestones are nice. They look great coloured with the Stampin' blends. You can make them any colour that you like. Just got to give them a few minutes to dry, and so the alcohol can actually evaporate off them. They just add something that little bit extra. It makes it pop. Just be careful, because if you colour too many rhinestones, you can actually damage the end of the Stampin' blend. There we go. How's that? A little bit closer up. Can you see it? How pretty does those rhinestones look? They go perfectly with the gold. That's the dark Daffodil Delight. And there's the card. Closer up. And the inside. Looks pretty smick, doesn't it? Perfect. Thank you for joining me.